So mostly everyone has heard of Formula One racing, but do you know about Formula E? It has the same speed, thrills, and fierce competition, but it's all electric. And it's fighting climate change in its own unique way, as we're learning in the new documentary, And We Go Green. Take a look.
In the first year of Formula E, pretty much all the drivers talk bullshit about Formula E. They realize later that this is the future.
And director and producer of And We Go Green, Fisher Stevens, is here with us now. Welcome. How are you?
I'm good. I'm blessed. I'm hanging in and trying to get my head around what's going on in the world and on the planet.
It's incredible to witness. I love your shirt, by the way. I love that.
My wife's an immigrant and my grandparents were, so we're all immigrants.
I do know about Formula One. Did not know about Formula E. Did you know much about this before this film? I know you're very focused on environmentalism. Did you know about this?
I knew nothing about this. I'd never heard about Formula E. I was in my office one day and the phone rang and it was Leonardo DiCaprio. And we had just finished a movie called Before the Flood together. And he asked me to go meet him for lunch at the racetrack in Brooklyn. And I said, dude, there's no racetrack in Brooklyn. He goes, oh, yes, there is. They're building a track for electric car racing. And I had no idea. He showed me around. He introduced me to Alejandro Agag, who's one of our main characters, the kind of ringmaster of Formula E. And Leo's like, we should make a movie about this, man. We could sell electric cars. We could make people understand how important it is. And I wasn't that taken with it until I started talking to Alejandro. And Alejandro said, you should meet the drivers. And we met the guys and we just were like, this is amazing. We have to make a movie about this.
You know, it was an interesting moment in this film where you guys talk about how what happens in the auto racing industry kind of trickles into the automotive industry, right? Seat belts and things like that. But how do you feel like what's going on with Formula E that's going to change the way that we drive cars?
When Formula One was at its height, all the technology going into these Formula One cars were going into our cars.
Yeah.
Now, Formula E is doing the same thing because with the exception of Tesla, which is its own brand, its own thing, but do you know BMW is electric, Audi is electric, Nissan is electric, Porsche now, Mercedes. These companies are promoting their electrical cars through Formula E and putting it into their road cars that you and I can buy, making them more affordable and making them better, safer, and also the battery charge will be longer. You know, there are very few moving parts to electric cars. There are thousands of moving parts to a combustible engine car.
You talk about the batteries that are required for these electric cars, but in this film I saw some type of fuel which you actually took a drink of. Explain the whole fuel component of this.
So the batteries are charged using aqua fuel. So people say, oh yeah, you're driving an electric car, but what about the fuel and the power it takes to charge the batteries? It's actually cooking oil runoff and algae. And they put it together and they make this kind of this glycerin material that tastes sweet. And that is what they're using to charge the batteries.
So you have a lot of projects and we want to talk about some of the other ones. You have a docu-series on the History Channel called Grant, which follows Ulysses S. Grant during the Civil War and Reconstruction era. What more can you tell us about this and why was this something you wanted to be a part of?
Well, it was, again, Leonardo had bought the book that Ron Chernow had written. I believe it won the Pulitzer Prize about Ulysses Grant. And then History Channel wanted to make a miniseries. What's so crazy is how pertinent it is to today. And you see how little has changed in certain parts of this country.
Politicians, CEOs, one Raymond Reddington.
Marvin Gerard.
Who are you? What am I doing here?
You were also on the blacklist. How do you balance it all?
You know, I work hard. I love work. I love acting, but I also love making movies and producing. And I'm going to be on Succession next year. I did 5 episodes last year, so I'm very excited about going back on that show. I have a movie coming out with Justin Timberlake that I directed called Palmer. Tiger King, of course.
Which became everyone's obsession. You executive produced this. It became such a huge hit. Everybody was talking about it. And there was so much news from those characters after it. You know, will there be some kind of a sequel? Are you guys talking about that at all?
Yeah, I mean, talking about it, but, you know, there's so much going on with Carol, and she just got Joe Zhu, and then there's people, you know, they reopened up her trial about, like, was she involved in the murder of her husband? I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on, so let's see what happens. But I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, I want to let everybody know that you can watch And We Go Green streaming on Hulu now. Fisher, thank you. And thanks for all that you do.
Very much.